She was just refueling jets until 200 terrorists surrounded the base and she took to the skies. Staff Sergeant Amelia Torres had always been underestimated. On paper, she wasn't a combat pilot, a decorated commander, or even someone who made big tactical decisions. She was just a fuel specialist, responsible for keeping the jets fueled and ready. To outsiders, her role seemed small. But Amelia knew the truth. Without her, those jets were nothing but metal sitting on the tarmac. That morning was no different from the countless others she had endured in the sweltering Middle Eastern desert. Sweat poured down her forehead as she crouched under the wing of an F-16, carefully filling its tanks. Engines roared around her, soldiers moved briskly, and the entire base buzzed with routine preparation. She thought it would be another ordinary day. She had no idea that within the hour, everything would change. The first explosion was faint, far away, like a distant storm. Amelia paused and looked up. Dust clouds rose on the horizon. Moments later, radios crackled with urgency and shouts filled the air. Perimeter breach! We got hostiles approaching from the east and south. Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She scrambled out from beneath the jet and squinted toward the horizon. What she saw chilled her. Dozens of pickup trucks racing across the desert, each filled with armed men, RPGs glinting in the sunlight. More and more appeared until it was clear there weren't just dozens, there were hundreds. The alarm sirens wailed and chaos erupted. Soldiers ran for defensive positions. Pilots sprinted toward their jets. And Amelia felt the ground shake from the first incoming mortar strike. The terrorists descended like a swarm. Over 200 of them. Bullets zipped through the air. RPGs slammed into perimeter walls. And plumes of smoke rose as vehicles inside the base exploded. Amelia ducked behind a fuel truck, her hands trembling. Fear clawed at her chest, but then she noticed something more terrifying than the enemy's numbers. The jets weren't ready. Most were only half-fueled, some with engines cold, others waiting for a hand on the nozzle. Without air support, the base would fall within minutes. She clenched her jaw. Running wasn't an option. Grabbing the heavy fuel hose, Amelia sprinted across the tarmac, bullets snapping past her ears. A pilot yelled at her to take cover. Torres, you'll get yourself killed out here. She shouted back, breathless but determined. If these jets don't fly, we're all dead anyway. Her courage stunned those around her. While explosions shook the ground, she worked furiously, locking nozzles into jets, pumping fuel, and moving on to the next. One jet, then another, then another. A mortar landed near a fuel truck, the blast throwing her to the ground. Fire roared, heat singed her skin, but Amelia didn't stop. Crawling, dragging the hose with her, she fueled another aircraft. Her hands were blistered, her body bruised, but she refused to quit. By sheer will, she managed to get 3 F-16s fully fueled and ready for combat. The pilots rushed toward the cockpits. Engines whined to life. Hope surged to the defenders. But then disaster struck again. 2 of the scheduled pilots had been injured in the attack. That left 2 jets without anyone to fly them. Amelia looked around desperately. One F-16 sat ready, canopy open, fuel tanks full, but no pilot in sight. If nobody flew it, their chance at survival would vanish. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She wasn't a combat pilot, but she had studied flight manuals, logged simulator hours, and learned everything she could from the pilots she admired. She had always dreamed of flying. And now, dreams and survival collided. Captain Hughes, one of the base's senior pilots, spotted her hesitation. Amid gunfire and explosions, he yelled across the tarmac, Torres, can you fly it? Amelia's throat went dry. Fear screamed at her to say no. But when she saw the enemy convoys pouring toward the gate, when she heard the frantic cries of her fellow soldiers under fire, something inside her hardened. She sprinted up the ladder, strapped into the cockpit, and muttered to herself, don't think, just fly. The canopy hissed shut. Her hands shook as she pushed the throttle. The jet roared, wheels screamed against the runway, and then, suddenly, the ground fell away. She was airborne. From the sky, the battlefield looked worse than she imagined. Dust, smoke, fire, and the endless stream of enemy trucks charging forward. The base walls were cracking, defenders pinned down, the situation nearly hopeless. Her radio crackled. Falcon 3, identify yourself. She swallowed hard, then replied, This is Sergeant Torres, I'm in the bird. Tell me where to hit. For a moment, silence. Then Hugh's voice, steady and controlled. Copy that, Torres. You've got guts. Weapons hot. Follow my lead. Her hands hovered over controls. She'd never fired real weapons before, but Hughes guided her. He marked the first target, a convoy of trucks packed with explosives. Amelia locked on, squeezed the trigger, and felt the jet shudder as missiles streaked away. A second later, fire consumed the convoy, scattering enemy fighters into chaos. Adrenaline surged through her veins. She banked hard, lined up her sights, and unleashed the jet's Vulcan cannon. A storm of bullets tore into advancing troops, turning their charge into a panic retreat. She wasn't just flying, she was fighting. For the next 20 minutes, Amelia flew with reckless precision. She dodged RPG fire, rolled out of missile locks, and struck convoy after convoy. The sky thundered with explosions. Every pass she made bought the defenders precious time. Down below, soldiers cheered as her strafing runs shredded enemy lines. What seemed like certain defeat was now turning into a desperate but winnable battle. But as she pulled out of another dive, her console flashed a warning, fuel low. The irony wasn't lost on her. The very woman who fueled others was now running dry in the sky. Amelia's options were few. She couldn't stay airborne much longer, but the enemy was regrouping for one last push. She had one missile left, and one shot to make it count. Hugh's voice cut through the radio. Torres, hit their command truck. Take it out and they'll scatter. She spotted it. A black SUV surrounded by technical vehicles. The nerve center of the assault. Heart racing. She locked on. Sweat dripped down her face. This was it. She pressed the trigger. The missile streaked across the desert, slamming into the command truck. The explosion ripped through the convoy, sending enemy fighters fleeing in all directions. The tide had turned. With her fuel nearly gone, Amelia guided the jet back to base. Her landing was rough, the wheels screeching against the runway, but she made it. When she climbed out, soldiers rushed to her, their faces a mixture of disbelief and awe. One of them whispered, almost reverently, she was just a fueler, but Hughes corrected him, his voice carrying pride. No, she's the reason we're alive. News of Amelia's actions spread quickly. She became a symbol of courage, a reminder that true heroes are often hidden in plain sight. For her, the medals and honors that followed didn't matter as much as the simple truth she had proven that day. You could be underestimated, overlooked, even dismissed as just someone in the background. But when the world is falling apart, courage can make you more than anyone ever expected. And for Staff Sergeant Amelia Torres on that fateful day, courage made her a legend.